links up well with Daichi Kamada, and there is the breakthrough for Japan.
Japan has been too quiet lately, and in football, silence like this usually means something dangerous is coming. While the world keeps arguing about the usual giants, something cold has been building in the background for years. Now, as the 2026 World Cup gets closer, even rival nations are beginning to feel it. Because whatever is happening behind the scenes in Japan doesn't feel normal anymore. And it is going to leave a mark on the World Cup that nobody on Earth will ever forget.
Finally, they find the back of the net, the best moment of the second half by far. Samurai Blue find the clinical edge, which might well carry them to the World Cup.
What's coming in 2026 begins on a night in October of 1993, when a 25-year-old Japanese midfielder named Hajime Moriyasu was 90 seconds away from sending his country to its first ever World Cup. Then, Iraq scored in stoppage time, and the dream died right there on the grass in Doha. Moriyasu later said he could not remember the dressing room or the bus ride back to the hotel afterward. He said the World Cup was right in front of him, and when he reached out to grab it, the trophy vanished into thin air. That memory would haunt him for over 3 decades, shaping every decision he would ever make in football from that moment onward. Fast forward to March of 2025, and Moriyasu was now 56 years old, sitting in the dugout in Saitama as his Japan team beat Bahrain 2-0 in front of their own fans. With that result, his team became the first nation on the entire planet outside of the host countries to qualify for the 2026 World Cup, getting there ahead of England, Argentina, and everyone else. The boy who lost his World Cup dream in stoppage time had just punched the ticket for an entire nation before the rest of the world had even finished lacing up its boots. And you genuinely could not write a redemption story this perfect, even if you tried. The way Japan got to that point was through pure dominance from the first whistle of qualifying right through to the last. They scored 20 goals across the campaign, while conceding only 2, including a 7-0 demolition of China that Chinese state media literally called a day of humiliation in their own newspapers. One former Chinese international even said on camera afterwards that he wanted to jump in the river after watching what Japan did to his country. That is what Moriyasu's side is doing to teams right now. But to understand why this version of Japan hits so much harder than any before it, you have to understand exactly who is wearing the shirt. Here is a statistic that will genuinely mess with your head when you stop and think about it for a second. When Japan first qualified for the World Cup back in 1998, every single player in their entire squad played his club football in the J-League back home in Japan. Every one of them, without exception. Today, there are roughly 114 Japanese players spread across European clubs from England to Spain to Germany, which is a 90% jump in just 5 years, according to Nikkei Asia. And the entire likely starting 11 for the 2026 World Cup is now playing in a top European league every single weekend. Take a proper look at the spine of this Japan team, and you will start to see why opponents are quietly terrified of them now. Wataru Endo is the captain, and he just won the Premier League title with Liverpool in the 2024-2025 season under Arne Slot. The legendary Jurgen Klopp once described Endo as a late bloomer who is a monster on the pitch and just wants to fight for every ball. And that is the man wearing the armband for Japan in 2026. Then you have Kaoru Mitoma at Brighton, who turned down a professional contract at the age of 18, so he could go to university and write a thesis on dribbling that involved strapping a GoPro camera to his own head to study eye movements frame by frame. The man literally studied his way to Premier League stardom, and his thesis sits in pride of place at the University of Tsukuba to this day. The list keeps going, and the more you dig, the more ridiculous it gets. Takefusa Kubo is at Real Sociedad in Spain after Barcelona famously let him slip through their fingers, and they call him the Japanese Messi for very good reasons. Daichi Kamada at Crystal Palace just won the FA Cup in 2025 against Manchester City, and his old manager Oliver Glasner once said he had rarely encountered such an intelligent player out on the pitch. Then up top, there is Ayase Ueda at Feyenoord, currently leading the entire Dutch league in scoring with 25 goals in 29 games, with Premier League clubs already lining up to sign him. This is no longer just a national team you can underestimate, mate. This is a genuine all-star squad pulled together from every corner of European football. European talent on its own does not win you a World Cup, though, and what makes this Japan side so genuinely dangerous is the brain operating in the dugout above them. Hajime Moriyasu is the only man in the entire Japanese setup who actually lived through the heartbreak of 1993 as a player on the pitch. He took over Sanfrecce Hiroshima as a manager in 2012 and immediately won 3 J-League titles in just 4 seasons, which tells you everything about his ability to build winning teams from the ground up. The man knows exactly how to win football matches when the pressure is at its absolute highest. Take your mind back to the 2022 World Cup in Qatar for a second. Japan were losing 1-0 to Germany in the second half when Moriyasu threw on Ritsu Doan and Takuma Asano off the bench. Doan equalized in the 75th minute, and Asano then scored a worldie in the 83rd to win it. Then, against Spain, a few days later, it happened again, with Japan down 1-0 at halftime before Moriyasu changed the entire game from the touchline. Doan equalized in the 48th minute, and then Tanaka scored the famous millimeter goal that knocked Germany out of the World Cup entirely. Mitoma kept the ball in play by less than 2 millimeters before crossing it back, with VAR confirming it after the longest review in tournament history. Spain coach Luis Enrique said afterwards that his team was through to the next round, but he was not happy at all about how it happened. Japan won that match against Spain with around 18% possession, which remains the lowest possession of any winning side in modern World Cup history. That is genuine tactical genius from a coach who waited 3 full decades to get back to this stage of football. The most recent piece of evidence that something special is brewing came at Wembley Stadium in March of 2026, in front of 80,000 England fans expecting a comfortable home win. No Asian nation had ever beaten England on home soil in 10 previous attempts going into that match. Then, in the 23rd minute, Mitoma robbed Cole Palmer in midfield. Kato Nakamura burst forward into space, and Mitoma slotted the return pass past Pickford to give Japan the lead. Japan held on to win 1-0 in front of a stunned Wembley crowd, becoming the first Asian nation in the entire history of football to beat England at home. This was not a lucky smash and grab result either. England had only 3 shots on target across the entire 90 minutes. Zion Suzuki, the 23-year-old Japanese keeper who was actually born in Newark, New Jersey, was an absolute brick wall behind the defense. Moriyasu said afterwards that the win would give his team the confidence to make a major impact at the World Cup itself in just a few months' time. Japan are now unbeaten in 7 straight matches against European opposition, with 6 wins and 1 draw, having beaten Germany, Turkey, Scotland, England, and Brazil all inside the space of just 2 years. Japan land in Group F at the 2026 World Cup alongside the Netherlands, Tunisia, and Sweden. And on paper, the Dutch are clearly the toughest test of the 3. Japan have actually never beaten the Netherlands in their entire footballing history, but they have also never had a squad assembled like this one either. Tunisia will sit very deep and try to frustrate them, which is genuinely Japan's biggest tactical weakness in the modern game. And Sweden has Victor Gyökeres alongside Alexander Isak up top, which is one of the most physically dangerous front pairings in the entire tournament. But here is where the story gets properly heavy and emotional. There is a curse that has been hanging over Japan for over 20 years now. They have reached the round of 16 4 separate times across 2002, 2010, 2018, and 2022. But they have never gone any further than that stage in the tournament. They led Belgium 2-0 with 23 minutes left to play in 2018 and somehow lost 3-2 to a stoppage time goal. They lost on penalties to Croatia in 2022 after a 1-1 draw. The round of 16 has been their finishing line for over 2 decades, like an invisible glass ceiling above their heads. This 2026 setup is genuinely different though, and the format itself is finally working in their favor. The tournament expanded to 48 teams, with the top 2 from each group qualifying automatically, plus the 8 best third-place teams advancing as well. There is now an extra knockout round before the round of 16, giving teams more time to find their rhythm. And the squad Japan are bringing? It is the most talented group of footballers Japan have ever assembled in their entire history. Even the Brazilian legend Zico, who once coached Japan himself, came out in May of 2026 and said he genuinely believes the Samurai Blue will reach the quarterfinals of this World Cup. When Japan walk out at AT&T Stadium on June 14th to face the Netherlands in their opener, the entire football world should be paying very close attention. This is not the Japan of 1998 anymore, showing up to participate, and this is not even the Japan of 2022 anymore, looking to spring an upset. This is the most complete Japanese national team in football history, led by a coach who has been carrying the pain of Doha for over 3 decades. And they are finally ready to leave a mark on the World Cup that nobody on Earth will ever forget. So, what do you think? Is Japan really hiding something special for 2026? Or is the football world reading too much into the silence? Let us know in the comments.